India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi has won a third five-year term in office, but his victory wasn't the landslide that had been expected. Salima Shivji has that story.
The drums ring out and the celebratory dances pour onto the street at the headquarters for India's ruling BJP. But this isn't exactly a win for Prime Minister Narendra Modi.
He did his best.
Modi was supposed to cruise to victory this election, which was dominated by polarizing religious rhetoric. Instead, India's voters sent a clear message.
Round 4.
As early results rolled in, the shock set in, with the count showing a surprising setback for Modi, the popular strongman, and his seemingly unbeatable BJP. Their majority now severely diminished. Modi will have to work with his coalition allies to govern. He may have claimed a decisive victory, saying this is a win for the world's largest democracy. But it was the opposition Congress Party and its headquarters that was more jubilant.
This was our last hope to save the democracy, to save the Constitution.
They far outperformed expectations. After cobbling together an alliance of opposition parties to try to stop Modi from winning a rare third term.
The country has unanimously and clearly stated, we do not want Mr. Narendra Modi.
The Congress, relegated to the political wilderness for Modi's decade-long rule, now given new life.
It's an election where the people in power have to be told that, well, you're okay, you're doing well, but this is where you need a bit of course correction.
Even some who voted for Modi are pleased with the result, tempering the power of the man who's ruled India with a strong hand for 10 years.
This opposition party has performed very well. Opposition should be there to fight.
It's not yet clear how Modi will operate under the diminished mandate that voters here have given him. But with such a slim majority for his alliance, he's now a much humbled prime minister. Salima Shivji, CBC News, Delhi.
My next guest says that this result reflects citizens speaking out against Narendra Modi. Ujjal Dosanjh is the former Premier of British Columbia. He's a former federal health minister, and he joins us now from Vancouver. Thanks so much for making the time, Ujjal.
Good to be with you.
So according to these early results that we're seeing, unlike the last two terms, Modi will not be able to secure a majority government on his own. So what does this say, do you think, about his hold on power right now?
Well, I think his hold on power is really weak at this moment because there are a couple of allies with him who have 30 to 40 seats between the two of them. And they went with him during the election campaign out of several compulsions because Modi has been sticking various enforcement agencies on his opponents to frighten them into submission. And it seems to me that their values are more in sync with the values of the India bloc led by Congress than they are to the BJP. They are more secular, more progressive, and less religious inclined. Therefore, I think that he's going to have some difficulty in putting together a coalition to get majority presence in the Lok Sabha, and his power is not for sure to continue.
Can I ask you to help us make sense of some of the exit polls and the stories? I was reading just yesterday exit polls suggesting a landslide victory for Modi. Today, the headlines are very different. What do you think has changed there?
I think there are several factors. One is exit polls are believed to have been fudged by Modi's people, who are essentially have been in control of the entire media in India. Most of the media, main media in India, television, radio stations, newspapers, have been in awe of Modi and his power and have been in submission rather than objective in the last several years. So that is one reason. The other reason is that it seems that some of the exit polls may have been influenced by Modi's desire to appear to be strong coming out of the gate at the end of the results so that he could bludgeon and influence other allies back into the coalition with him. His secret is out. Exit polls didn't bear out. The results are much different. And in fact, it seems to me that there is an equal chance of the India bloc, led by Congress, being the next government, as there is a chance of Modi being the next prime minister.
Well, you know, and of course, one of the main reasons we want to talk about this, aside from the fact that it is fascinating watching this all play out in India, but the Indo-Canadian relationship between the two governments, it's been strained, obviously, certainly in the past year. Now that Modi potentially is selected for a third term, we don't know exactly what that government maybe looks like, how it's formed, but what would you suggest in terms of advice to the Canadian government in dealing with India as it's figuring out the new government? And if it is Modi, then how does that play out?
Well, you know, first of all, I think Canadians need to understand that no Indian politician likes the idea of a separatist movement essentially being generated and existing in Canada. And it's been there for a long time. And all Indian politicians, and I was there in May and October, all Indian politicians hold Canadian politicians somewhat responsible in the sense that I have heard no Canadian politicians say to these separatists who've been violent sometimes, nobody has said to them, look, you know, India may be less of a democracy than we are, but it is a democracy. It's been a friendly democracy most of its life. Therefore, we don't like the dismemberment of a friendly democracy, so we disagree with you and stop what you're doing. They might not stop. They're free to continue, but nobody's ever said that. And Canadians have always taken refuge under this rubric of freedom of expression. So I think that needs to be understood. The other thing is, I think there is enough bad blood between the current leadership in India and the current leadership in Canada that one needs to perhaps look past the current regimes in both countries for sanity to prevail.
Ujjal Dosanjh, former Premier of British Columbia, I really appreciate you joining us today. Thank you so much.
Good to be with you. Thank you.